So dictionary is the other data type, right? Among the seventh one, which we have been learning from last days. Okay. So after your sets, we have dictionary, which is a data type in a format of key and value pairs. Okay, it stores data in some mapping uh, states. Okay, so it keeps data like k and v in form of this. Okay, and thing is that you should not keep the keys duplicated. Okay, or else like it will be it's the values what you'll be entering afterwards will be just updated. So it's not like recommended to keep the keys duplicate. So the data type is dict. Okay, and suppose we're gonna make a data making a dictionary. So we are going to make some keys, and therefore for them we'll be taking some values 10, 20, 30. Okay, for b. So this is my dictionary now, and which is having some sort of values. Okay, so what from the functions we are going to have? Suppose we are looking to the keys, we want to see the values, and you want to see the items. Items is basically a collection of all your keys and values constructed in one tuple. Okay, then suppose you want to add some data to it, so we are going to write, suppose I want to add c, and it is going to have values 30, 50 and 60. So you check your c data is added, or else you can have an option of writing to update values. Okay, you can use this. Next is another set of thing, like I can show you this pop item. So pop item is going to remove the key and the value, basically the last element. So last element is this after the comma, and this is the key and the value as both, right? So both of them is going to be removed. So pop item, it because item means your key and value at a pair, right? So if you just write pop, you will have to mention the key we want to remove, and then it will say that yeah, the value has been removed. Okay, so this is what it will follow. And or like you can just get the values as well. Okay, suppose you want to retrieve values of a, so you can get it like this. And with the dictionary you would be able to create some data sets in future, right? So we'll be looking into that data set creations and all later onwards. Okay, so this is what your dictionary is actually. Okay, and nested dictionaries are there, a dictionary inside a dictionary and all those things. So we are going to just talk on the major part of today's topic, that is functions. So functions in any programming language is a set of statements that are related to perform a task. Okay, and every function is grouped by a sequence of statements to perform some activities, right? So functions may be large, may be small. Okay, and you know it can be a great way to organize the code properly. And using a function like reduces the um, repetitions or reusabilities. Okay, so the code which is written in like one function is, it can be reused any number of times at a in a program. Okay, And functions are broadly divided into two types: built-in functions and user defined functions. Okay, so like some of the examples, I'll be writing absolute value abs. Okay, that returns absolute value of any number. Okay, so we'll be just taking it in two types of functions are built-in user-defined functions. So when we talk for built-in functions, these are already present, so you cannot change or modify anything. It is already over there. So suppose we are trying to go for absolute value minus 4. It returns the absolute value of any number. Right. Similarly, suppose we are taking for boolean. So I'm not going to take all those simple ones like integer, floats and all, because that we have done. So we'll be taking something which we have not done. Suppose boolean of 2 if you write. So what boolean is going to do is it is going to convert a val to bool. So apart from like values, if you are writing it positive, it's fine. If you are writing values in negative, okay, negative in the sense only if it is 0. Okay, numbers does not matters, or pool of 1. Clear? So this is what is the working of boolean is. Okay. The next is apps we have used. Integer, float, complex, all those are there already, but apart from it, you have div mod, which returns a tuple of quotient and remainder. Div mod it's this. No, so you have to write x and y, like, which you can say it returns tuple x this and this, and variant is. So suppose I'm writing 10 comma 4. So it says when 10 is when 10 is divided by 4 and 10% out of 4. So I think that's clear, right? These two simple things we have done in arithmetic operators. So it is the same thing over there. So now let me take input function. We have done help, we have seen format is there. These are some of the inbuilt functions. Then you have max, mean, okay, sum, slice. So we have d of a. How to find sum of it? I can just write sum. Okay, so no issues. We'll write sum inside it. Okay, and suppose I write sum of d of a minus d of a of 0, that's 50. So d of a of 0 is something 10 might be, and that's what it is saying, 50. Similar, min of d is in here, max of d is b. Okay, so this is just min, max, and all these values, and these are inbuilt functions. Okay, so we're moving next. Now let's just talk about some user defined functions. So functions which are defined by the user to perform some specific task are called user defined functions. Now these are the functions which are written by the users, and it does not come in the form of library, right? So you just have to write it down. Okay, so user defined functions name implies that it will be remade by the developers according to the requirement of the codes. An advantage of user defined function is that it helps to decompose any large part of a code you are working in into small segments, which will make your program easy to understand, maintain, and then to debug it. Okay, so each repeated code, instead of writing it for every time, you just have to just put it a function, okay, and that will work for you. Okay, so what is the syntax of writing it? User so a user defined function syntax is, so you have to write def, then the function name, and we're gonna write x, then we have to return something, right? So this function is not going to do anything. This is a null function, and it is not going to do any kind of thing. So this is a null function, simply it implies, right? Next is suppose we are going to make functions for some of the working, so that we can understand. Now every function is defined by def keyword. Okay, you have to make sure about that. Return is something which will be used to pass the value, and return is optional. It's not always mandatory. You can use print as well. Okay, so suppose we are going to make a function which says hello to the user coming. Okay, and let's make it, so this is called greeting. I'll take the name, and what we would be going with this hello plus, and we'll give plus the name. So suppose you pass it and you say okay, and suppose I run, you're getting the output as such for, okay, I'll just have to give a space over here, and let me just check it for what it does. Okay, so you can see it is just doing its thing. Instead of returning, if I just say for printing, it would be much better. So you can see it is giving me two values. Okay, I believe that is fine now. Alright, so next, make a function for taking absolute values, giving absolute values of a number. So let's make it for returning absolute values of a number. So create an absolute value. Although you have this function, I'm just sorry, you have this function, but still we are taking, and we are not going to take we are not going to use the abs function inside of that. Okay, so suppose we will be having a number. So if the number is going to be greater than 0, we will just simply return the number to the user, or elif the number is equals to 0, will still return 0 to the user, or else number is less than 0, then we would return the minus of the number. So that minus and minus would be plus. Okay, so here we okay, let me check absolute of minus 32. Okay, and absolute of 50. It's 50. Okay, right. So at both the times you are getting the values. Okay, that's clear. Now let's make a function to reverse a string. Suppose if I have a string, if I'm having a string, I want to reverse it. So let us make it done. So what are the concepts which will be applied when you are returning a string reversal? So suppose that first I'll say it's string reverse of x, and suppose my string would be something like here. Okay, now after that I'll just have to take the index value of my string and length or something related to that, and then I'll just calculate it. So write index equals to now while my index would be greater than 0. Okay, and here you can just take it while your index is greater than 0, you can just assign some variable. Okay, that is, let's suppose my string plus equals to string minus 1. Okay, or this you can say as to be the x value what it is taking. You can say it as x of this, because that will be a string, right? So x of your so while your index or while your length of the string is less than, greater than 0, you will keep on adding the that index minus 1, like suppose if it is coming 4, then 4 minus 1 3 at third place, whatever it is, you will keep on taking it negative and then storing it in the string one, a string or the variable what we have made. Okay, and then same every time after doing this you have to do this part. You subtract the index every time you are doing this. After you are done this, just print the string. So let us check string reverse of Python. Okay, we have an error, unsupported type of string minus. Okay, So we'll have oops, we have a wrong keyword here. So yeah, it is doing, and alright, so it is making. So you can test some of the palindrome strings as well. Suppose I write a name within, right, or any other palindrome, Bob, right? So yes, Utkarsh. हाँ बोलो. Yes, कोई डाउट है? Utkarsh, any queries? You raised your hand. Anyways, like, okay, so if you have a query you can ask. अपना नाम लिखने के बाद रखिए. So this is a simple function of reversing the strings. Okay, now you can make some lambda functions as well. Okay, number to check, function to check for, you know, can make functions to go and check for any perfect number between a range of numbers. Okay, so suppose we are making function to check perfect number. So we'll make perfect number. You just have to write a range, okay, whatever the number you want, and then we will be using the for loops to iterate over those ranges, and if it comes equals to 0 then it's fine, we'll add on it. That's the logic. Actually what you'll do is, first I'll make one variable. Suppose variable is equals to 0. Okay, then the next step is that you'll be checking in for a range of the number inputted, like for suppose you're saying for I in a range of 1 to your x. The first thing, right, after that what you're going to do is, if you find that your x, when divided by your number when is divided by this I, okay, so when your number is divided by I and you see that it is giving value to 0, equals to 0, so if the remainder comes as 0, then you will add it on to your variable and return. That's it. Okay, so let me do it. What I'm saying is that if your x when divided by I leaves it 0, then you will say that your val plus equals to I. Okay, so you'll be just starting it with the I, and the next thing what you're going to do is returning the var equals to I. So the number, if it's a true, a perfect number, it will be coming true, or else it will be just false. Okay. Then in function there are something called arguments. So suppose if I want to create a function which takes more than 2 3 inputs and return the sum of it, so we know that we have a sum function. If I write 2 comma 3, it's gonna be giving me the error. Why? Because it only takes one input, so it takes it like this. You write 2 and 3, you get it. What about when I add 4 to it, and 5 to it? So you keep on adding, but in one parameter. It will keep on giving you the sum. So I'm going to make an argument with some default parameter. Suppose I'll say this is a default parameter named as cool, or named as happy. Okay, then I'm making it as names, and I'll write print names plus default. So arguments of Sumit, what it is saying, can only convert a string to okay, just so suppose I am writing good comma Sumit, so it is printing Sumit and then good. If I write hi, see Sumit, hi, good, and so you can increase number of parameters. You are just increasing it one by one. Total Sumit, hi, total good, right? So you can just see, yeah, just increasing it. Where does it helps? So you create your own max value. You created your own max function. You say give me the number you want to take in, and I'll give you the, and I'll return you the maximum of the number. Just we are using inbuilt function also. For example, if I write max of 2 comma 3 comma 4, so I get 4, right? Any doubts? No? Okay. So what is going to be the use of this? Instead of this, if I'm going to write like this 23 43 something, is it going to work? So instead of max, it is just printing with the max, right? It's not printing with the value of that. So where does this arguments are going to play an important role? What are the default parameters? Default means like, you know, if you have entered a value, okay, and you're not changing it, if it is not needed to change by default, whatever it comes, right? In those cases, we say it as a default argument or a normal argument, right? Keyword arguments or simple arguments, right? So I'll just show you. Suppose Okay, so suppose you just simply run default, it will say I am Alexa. Now what happened if I say Siri? So it says I am a Siri. If I say, it says I am no good. So you have set a parameter sorry, and you don't have every time to go and change it to something. So this is called default parameter. One parameter is there by default. If you don't write anything, it is going to give you some value from there. Okay, so that's what default parameter works. Okay, so moving next. So these are basically the kind of functions. Now coming to the lambda functions. So lambda functions are basically an anomalous function, okay, which can have some inputs, and inputs, if you are taking in lambda, that can have expressions and inputs. There come two terms actually which has to be mentioned. So in order to have more or one arguments, lambda can hold, but it can only hold one expression. So you can put one or more number of arguments, but while evaluation you can only have one expression in it. So these functions are anomalous functions due to the absence of the name of the function. So you just write it as a variable name. You don't have to write any function name or something like that. Okay, so let's make a function which can filter some list. Okay, so suppose I'll create my list and I'll take some numbers. So this is my list. Now I have to make a lambda function which will check for the values which are even. So my even list, suppose I create a blank list and then I say for I in my list, if the I is greater than 0, if I with this giving me to 0, then I'll say it's a even. Or else not, right? So only at some point of time I'm getting even, so I'll just print out of this all it is even, or else we'll say odd to it. So this is one approach, but what I want is a list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write lambda of x, where x I'll check with divide by 2 leaving to 0. I just want to see these kind of things. So this is my lambda x, and my x divided by 2 should leave it to 0. Okay, so this is my function. Now it is something what I want to do, but here I'm going to apply filter function. So what it will be, I'll say that filter this function. This is the function, right? So I want to filter this function to my list, and I want this value in list format. What will happen if I do the same thing in one single line of code? So let me check my even list and I'll see if I only want even list. So it's 10, 34, 34, 98, 36, 94 and 28. So you see the same list coming out there. Okay, So that's what lambda does actually, with simple one line function. Okay, so you can map as well. Suppose a list is there and I say that even list multiplied by 2. So you see the numbers have been duplicated. If I say 3, it's not multiplying with that, like I am saying 1.5, 1.2. So in that case it will be error because it cannot multiply the sequence by float, right? So 12 means it will be multiplied for 12 times. The elements will be coming repeatedly for 12 times, but I don't want that. So I'll create a map list and I'll say my list, and I'm going to map this with my lambda, and I would say x is gonna be x multiplied by 2. I'm going to do this function in my event list, and let me show you the map list, and you see the map list versus the event list. So I'll do one thing. I'll show you the zip of event list versus the map list, and we would be having a list of this. So you can see it's 10 multiplied by 2, 20, 34, 68, 68, and so on. Okay, so this is what lambda function is capable of doing. All right, so I believe that this function topics are clear to you. Okay, this is how we are going to use lambda in real life as well. So in real life lambda plays a more important role. Okay, so suppose you have along this this path, and this is like, okay, suppose we have some email addresses, like let's say wiki dot stark at the rate rediffmail.com. Now you have a lot of data like this, okay, and you want to apply lambda in that case. So you have a lambda function which is going to just take out the thing exactly which is important for you. Suppose you want to take things of the username or something, a domain, you want to find the domain thing. So after splitting, I'll just take -1, and this is what lambda is going to do. So suppose this is equals to x, or this is equals to s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say s of y. I'll pass and I'll get the particular thing, right? So you can see it's coming out, and it can be anything. Now you can get things like that. So this is what lambda is. So it's one line kind of function, and these are user built functions and built-in functions. So I believe today's topic is clear. Okay, let me just stop the video.